We are in this together.
You have gifts that I don't have, and I have gifts that you don't have.
That we must see. Now is the time, because it's when we all get together that we will make the changes that we must make. We are the world.
Welcome to Malcolm and We, heard exclusively on malcolmpresents.com. Malcolm and We is a part of We the World, and I always say We the People, but it's We the World. And basically, we feature people who are doing something positive to change the world. And today we have Kevyn Breedon. Is that the way you pronounce your last? Kevyn Breedon, who he's a masculine artist, musician, educator, and activist. Worked professionally with the trans youth programming manager for Camp Lilac, a youth mentor for, what are Margie's kids?
That's a support group for trans teenagers and children, and then the parents meet in another room.
Okay, and you're currently a program instructor for Conservancy of Cuyahoga Valley?
Cuyahoga Valley National Park.
And where's that?
That's in Northeast Ohio, between Cleveland and Akron.
Uh-huh. And basically, and what's very interesting right now is because we have my co-host Yana Larson, who happens to be Kevyn's mom. And Kevyn, as we spoke before, I haven't met him, but we had a little show conversation. He is a trans. Would you consider yourself transgender, even though you're okay? Now, what exactly is transgender?
Trans meaning it was here and now it's there, and gender being your gender expression, your gender identity. So it has changed. I was assigned female at birth, and now when people see me walking down the road, they're like, "That's a man."
Yeah, I mean, I look at you; you're a man. When did you know that you were in the wrong body for the wrong body for the wrong mind?
Yeah, so when I was about 3, I'm guessing it was, we've been doing the potty training thing for a while. I pee in the big kid toilet, so I call my parents in to clap for me, and my dad throws out a dad joke, and he says, "Next, I'll teach you how to pee standing up." And I got really excited because I was waiting for that chapter of the training session. And so the parents have a good laugh about that, and then proceeds to have this awkward conversation trying to explain to me what the difference between boys and girls are. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not like really, and I didn't have the words. I was 3 years old, and it's the 90s. I didn't have the words that kids have today. And I remember being shocked because I thought we were all on the same page. We all knew that I wasn't exactly a girl. And it was very upsetting. And then I think it was 6, 7, or 8 years old. I'm quite a tomboy. Everyone knows it. And I'm used to my family calling me Kevyn, even though the name that was given to me was Amy. And so I finally asked my older brother, "Why does everyone keep calling me Kevyn?" And he said, "Well, don't you know that's the name that would have chosen for you had you been born a boy?" And I said, "Well, why don't people just call me Kevyn then?" And he thought that was really funny, and he laughed, and I was really upset. And it was like that throughout school. I was playing with the boys. I was sitting with the boys. I was lining up with the boys. I wanted to go in the boys' restroom, and just finding people not being okay with that or being really confused. And it wasn't until I was 8th grade that I learned the word transgender. And basically, as soon as I was given the definition, I knew, oh, that's me.
Well, why would the definition? I grew up with a lot of tomboys.
Mm-hmm.
Who didn't become transgender. What do you think the difference is? The difference between transgender and a tomboy? Is that synonymous with being transgender, or can you?
They're two separate things, but a tomboy may one day decide or discover that they're actually a man and they're not a woman. Some tomboys will grow up to be super feminine women. Or maybe they just stay kind of masculine in their gender expression. So they identify as a woman, but maybe people see them and the way that they act and the way that they dress. That's their expression.
Okay.
I remember being a kid, hearing the word tomboy a lot and being like, who is Tom and why can't I just be a boy?
Oh, okay. Then now our unique situation is we have our co-host, Yana, who's not actually acting as a co-host, but she's acting as a mom. Mom, how did you feel? When did you notice the difference that the tomboy really wanted to be a woman?
Be a boy, be a man.
Be a man, rather.
Well, that was that was a question I asked Kevin a lot because I was a tomboy. But I mean, I was athletic and coordinated, and I wanted to play baseball, not softball. And I was pretty good at football, and there were boys in the neighborhood, and I was never a prissy, feminine type. I did like jumping out of trees and playing with frogs and things like that. And I did, I was strong. I wanted to do all the things that the boys could do, but I outgrew it, and I never wanted to be a guy, and I liked being a woman and a girl. I was not as feminine acting as my sister. I didn't figure out mascara till I was in my 20s, but still I was a girl. But with Kevin, he just didn't act like the typical little girl, and I was used to being around little kids, and so I noticed it, and his father and I would look at each other and go, and so we didn't discourage it, but I wouldn't say we went out of our way to encourage it either. We encouraged our kids to be who they are, and that was important to us for whatever they were interested in. That's what we got involved with, and that was just our thinking. We disagreed on many things, but we did agree that our kids should be who they are.
And
And
Kevin,
so we both, in our own way, did what we could to encourage that.
when at what age did you decide that you had the ability to cross the line, that were you ever confused, or you knew all along that you were transgender, that you didn't want to be a girl, and you wanted to be I guess a boy at the time? When did it come to your mind that you're going to do this?
Yeah, I'd say in high school is when I've always been who I am. I think that people that have known me for a long time can agree. I've always just been me. I wasn't as confused as some people. Some people, they're like, why am I so unhappy? And they reach 40, 50 years old and they finally figure out that they're trans. I'm somewhere in the middle where I wasn't, as a young child insisting, no, I will be called he and I will not be called she. I wasn't that insistent, but I wasn't figuring out late life. It was about in high school when I'm learning the word transgender, and I had just a very welcoming, accepting group of friends who also LGBT and neurodivergent and things like that. And so I had the opposite experience. Instead of coming out to my friends in high school and them rejecting me, I was explaining to my friends, well, I think I might be transgender, but I don't know if I want to have surgery. And they're explaining to me, no, you could be transgender and you don't have to have surgery. Like, you don't understand. So they're like, my friends were trying to explain to me that, yes, you're transgender and it's okay. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. And then after I graduated college and more people are talking about transgender rights, that's when I'm realizing I need to do something. And I just don't know how to make it happen. I don't know how to afford this. I don't have health care. How am I ever going to do this? Do I have to choose between being a teacher or being transgender? For a long time, I thought I had to choose between one or the other. And that's just where we were as a country at that time.
Or have we matured as a country, or are we still that way?
So 2015, 2016 is a turning point where before then it was common for me to meet someone and say, hey, my friend is transgender. And they go, what's transgender? They just didn't know the answer. And then by 2015, 2016, everyone knew what transgender was and they had an opinion about it. And I would say that since then, we've been pushing more and more towards people deciding, yes, we want to make a world where transgender people are welcomed and affirmed and allowed to be who they are, including children. but you have a loud, hateful minority that is not okay with that, and there's a backlash. So I would say in general, we're moving towards a more just world for transgender people. But that backlash makes it really difficult for children to just be children. So sometimes I understand what transgender adults feel when they see transgender kids having more access to information and having more access to rights than they did when they were children. But I also caution them, like, we didn't have to defend our transness or explain transness to adults. We were just that weird cisty boy or that weird tomboy girl, and we didn't have to talk about transgender politics as children. So in some ways, I feel like I have it a little easier than the kids do now, but it's really hard to say.
Uh, I'm getting a little confused. What is the difference between transgender and being gay? Let's say were initially a female, right? And now
Right.
you identify yourself as male, or did you identify yourself as male or as transgender, or do you feel all man?
I'm feeling more and more all man. And to before I explain the difference between gay and transgender, another term that people are hearing more often is non-binary, where instead of thinking everything is very black and white and cut and dry and it's this or it's that, we're understanding now that gender is a little bit more fluid, and that includes the rest of the animal kingdom too. And there's intersex people, which people used to refer to as a hermaphrodite. So I kind of feel in between these worlds of man and woman, but since starting testosterone, I have been feeling more solidly man. The one way I like hearing the difference between what is gender and what is sexuality, or what is transgender and what is gay, is your sexuality, like gay, is who you go to bed with. And transgender, your gender identity, your gender expression is who you go to bed as.
Yeah.
Who you are as a person.
Well, again, I think I have a unique approach to that. As far as I know, I'm completely straight. You know, I've never really been attracted to men, but I think a lot of that is because you're programmed that you shouldn't. I think there's some people you're more programmed, or I'm more programmed to how a person comes off. You know, I think it was the Greeks that said, you know, women are for production and men are for pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that there's certain situations where some people's personality they've been with makes me feel very warm towards them, and it could be male.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with sex. It has to do with their
Right.
personality and the warmth of people. And I felt that whether they're young or old. And to me, the concept of binary is that you're a person, and a person really knows no sex. A person is a person. So you don't want to be classified, you know, as a male who does, you know, ABC, or a female that does ABC. You do both.
Right.
So to me, that's binary, and I could see why, you know, people you know, and like that title, but it has nothing to do with sex. It almost has to do with just being a person, and a person
Yeah.
has no sex; they're human.
Right.
But now going back as a binary, as you feel that you know, more as a woman or more as a man than a woman, who are you attracted to? What type of person are you attracted to?
I'm pansexual, pan meaning all or many. I'm like you were talking about, sexuality can be not so much this or it's that. I would say I'm more attracted to masculinity than femininity or androgynous, people that are androgynous. But I'm attracted to all of the above,
Mhm.
but mostly masculinity.
Are you involved? Do you have a relationship now?
Not like a significant other, but lots of friends.
And do you go? Do you introduce them to your mom?
Yeah, and I was with as I was like realizing that I'm transgender, I need to change. I was with someone for 7 years, and he's attracted to like rugged women, tomboy kind of women. So that worked out well until it just didn't. And I realized I needed to transition. And he's like, I'm not gay. And I'm, at the time it was really difficult. But yeah, if you're not gay, you're not gay. And it always felt weird being called a girlfriend. I just called him my partner.
Well, as you,
And
you
that
said,
was a really hard time for him. That was a hard time for him too, for many reasons, but also because Kevin had such a strong feeling of love for this person, and this person didn't, who is still a friend. They've
Yeah.
got worked through many things, but this person just wasn't at all supportive, and so Kevin was like, "What do I do?" And I go, "Well, I mean, you could go either way, of course, but you waited so long to be who you are. It's that's a decision only you can answer is who you want to be, whether or not this person agrees with you or not. And um, so I've always just tried to be very supportive no matter what. And something that when Kevin had his top surgery, it was important for him that I be there, and that was an honor. Um, that he requested that I be there, and so I was.
oh, okay. Well, we had discussed that earlier before you came aboard about your top surgery, and you haven't had your bottom surgery, because I think that's not as well developed, for to a woman into a man, where a man goes into a woman. I think they have that developed it more.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about here, a transgender person that is deciding to have surgery, there's really no such thing as this one surgery that does all the things. There's a lot of different surgeries that are involved. Some of them are more difficult than others. And it kind of comes down to top surgery and bottom surgery. I've only had top surgery. I knew that I wanted that. I remember being 12 years old and thinking, how can I cut these off without dying of blood loss? I don't want to have bottom surgery at the moment because I don't like the way that it's working out right now. The technology is not that developed. Maybe in the future I might decide that I want it, but at the moment I don't want it. And it doesn't there's a risk of complications that's fairly high, that it's concerning.
Now, getting very personal, if you don't, want to answer it, I understand. When you were having sexual relationships, do you like having sex more with women or with men? And then with men, how is that acting? How do you act with a man? How do you act with a woman?
Yeah, romantically, sexually, I'm more attracted to masculinity and cisgender men. And not all cisgender men are the same. So some cisgender, meaning they're not transgender, cisgender, meaning they were assigned male at birth, they're still identify as a man. Some of them get trans people, some of them have done their homework, some of them haven't. Sometimes when I'm having sex with another gay man, they have done their homework and they know what they're doing and they've had experience, and some of them haven't. Some transgender people in my situation might choose not to have, even if they want to have sex with cisgender men that haven't done their homework or haven't had that experience. I'm okay, again, as an educator, holding their hand through the process. Sometimes it's tricky, sometimes it's as easy as can be. And some of them are open to experiencing something new and some of them aren't.
Mm-hmm. Now, how would you receive, let's say, are you a religious person? I mean, you go to church or?
I used to be quite the fundamentalist atheist, and now I go to a UU church. And when kids ask me if I believe in God, I say, I believe that tree is God, that worm that you found is God, that rock you found is God, you're God, I'm God, we're all God. We're all part of this collective great spirit.
Actually, that's what your mom feels.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel? How do you feel now? What's happening politically and the controversy? What's happening, especially when a lot of in the Republican Party is becoming very fundamentalist.
Right. There's the global rise of fascism. And one of the symptoms of that global rise of fascism is, oh, there's not enough resources for all of us. So we have to protect it for ourselves, and we have to keep it away from the people that aren't pure, that aren't as superior as we are. And so the first people to be targeted are the marginalized groups, which includes LGBT people, includes transgender people. So this is happening in a number of countries. It's not just the United States. And like I'd said before, it's a minority, but it's a loud minority. So I would say most Republicans really don't feel the need to harass families of transgender children. It's a small group, but it's a loud group. More and more surveys, more and more data is showing that most Americans want rights for trans people, and they're upset that there's this small but powerful minority that's trying to threaten their constitutional rights.
Well, how do you feel now with in our educational system that schools are allowed to let's say if you wanted to be called by another name, if you were if you were Amy, but in school you wanted to be called by Kevin.
Right. Yeah,
Should they consult your mother, or can they just, or were they fine to call you, Kevin without her? And it's also for you, Yana. Was it all right for them to call, him, her? Well, are you a him or a her?
I'm him.
You're him. Okay. You call him Kevin. Was that permissible with you if you didn't know it, or should they have asked you if he was like in the third or fourth grade?
So if the question is, there's a third grader who tells their teacher, I want to be called they. I don't want to be called he or she, but please don't tell my parents. The question is, do we tell the parents or do we not tell the parents? I'm supportive of not telling the parents. Let there be one place in their life that child feels comfortable to be who they are. The fact that they don't want someone to tell their parents that they go by they pronouns tells me pretty much everything I need to know about what that home life is. That child does not feel comfortable sharing something that might be the most important part of who they are to their own parents. And if the parents find out that their child's been keeping a secret from them about who they fundamentally are, and that makes them upset, hopefully they have a moment of self-reflection and realize that I am not a safe person in my child's life. What should I do differently? Now I can understand that's a tricky situation. Some parents feel uncomfortable with what I've just said, but the rights that we're protecting here in this situation are the constitutional rights of a child who will one day be an adult who also has constitutional rights. Teachers, school staff deal with all sorts of tricky situations like this all the time, but the constitutional right is that trans people have constitutional rights.
Yeah, but conversely, if the third grader or the fourth grader is concealing this from his parents, doesn't this, number one, develop the fear or the feeling from him that he's doing something wrong, that he's hiding? And number two, wouldn't he feel a sense of guilt that he's not telling his parents that he's living a duplicitous life and he's not really admitting it to them?
That child is probably feeling all of those things. They're probably feeling all those really heavy feelings, even as a third grader. And those are feelings that a lot of trans people feel is, oh, I have to keep who I am hidden from the people I love.
Yeah, well,
That's
as far as I know, a lot of gay people, a lot of gay people that I know, as I say, I used to do a show called Different After Dark, which was a gay and lesbian show. And again, these were people that were growing up in the 70s and 80s. Not, it's a new world out there. There's a new world out there now, but they always felt guilty and they hid their sexuality. They weren't necessarily trans wasn't the big thing then. It was basically more, identity. They identified as gay or lesbian. And these are, when I grew up, these were the two main things, gay or lesbian. I mean, trans wasn't that big. There were trans dressers. But it wasn't that big of a thing. Or I guess people still felt that way, but they were completely closeted.
Yeah, as long as there's been humans, there have been trans people, there have been bisexual people. But the LGBT movement started with mostly being focused on the rights of lesbian and gays. And we can look back on history and see, have evidence that we were pushing bisexual people aside. We were pushing trans people aside. We thought that liberation for lesbian gays meant that, liberation for bisexual people or transgender people would somehow be a threat to the liberation of gays and lesbians. But we now know that we are all freer when everyone is free.
Yeah.
But there were trans people.
Well, it was considered a threat to all the foundations. It was considered a threat to all the foundations, of society, and some cultures revere people who identify as two-spirit, as we've often talked about. So when somebody asks me a question, about it, I go, I use that example, and for some people it is more prevalent, that two-spirit kind of concept, and a lot of people can go, oh, okay.
Well,
But when it comes to school, the school situation, I was always a strong advocate for my children, both of them, for whatever was going on, and so I don't think either of them would ever have felt a need to be, duplicitous or feel guilty about not bringing up something that they felt, at home or at school.
well,
There was just a
Yanni,
foundation.
you have another son, right?
Yes.
And
Eric, and he's 5 years older, and he's been a very strong advocate. They get along really well, and Eric is getting married this summer, and he was even considering having Kevin be one of his groomsmen at his wedding. Which is cool. And so we can talk about it all, and yeah, it's really cool. I'm glad about it. And when Kevin was younger, I had checked out the Unitarian Church in another community from where we were living, and I saw that there would be a good foundational system, of worship, fellowship, whatever you want to call it, that would be a good support system for Kevin. And I was right. It did work out, and he's been there ever since. And he works with the youth, whatever their leanings are, but he's definitely been very helpful in supporting other children and adults who are trans, gay, whatever.
Do you only deal with trans children, or do you deal with gay and lesbian, or do you deal with children in general and discovering themselves?
Children and adults in general, including LGBT and including people that aren't LGBT.
Yeah, I mean, that gets to me, that gets confusing a lot, because they keep on adding another initials.
Yep, alphabet soup, the alphabet mafia.
I mean, when I grew up, it was either a gay or lesbian. Gay meant guys. I don't know whether did this gay refer to lesbians also, or only men?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, because to me, gay was male, and lesbians, of course, is women.
Right.
And there's so. Do you find
That's
now? Yeah. Did you find now in the entertainment world that there's more and more of not so much as trans, but as gay and lesbian people that are becoming more mainstream?
Oh yeah, LGBTQ people are just getting more and more visibility, more and more rights. That doesn't mean that their life is easy, but that's why we're seeing the backlash, because they used to be closeted, they used to be underground, and now they're not.
Now, I hate to say this, but even being straight sexually, life is never easy.
Right.
Yeah. So it's but I understand. I can see, from your point of view why it's much more complicated, or from the parents' point of view, because I know I have two boys, and in back of my mind, I was always concerned, because even though, as you can tell, I'm more or less very liberal, and let people do what they want to. I was always concerned that my boys wouldn't be gay. I mean, I guess if they would, I would accept it. But I know in my mind it was, again, I wouldn't want them to be gay. I mean, they have
Because
enough
you're
problems being straight.
right.
Well,
Yeah,
as
I'd
a
say
parent, you want your children to be accepted and be able to fit in and have friends and have love and all that. And for whatever reason, if Kevin were born without arms and legs, I mean, I would still want my child to be loved, because my child is more than arms and legs, and my child is certainly more than who he loves
Right.
or doesn't love. And so it's about unconditional love. And to me, I don't see why it's hard, why unconditional love is so difficult. I just don't. And that's
Yeah.
what I think it comes down to. Just just love and accept people. That's all there is to it.
Yeah,
yeah, I
that's
would say this partner that I had, that definitely struggled, and we're best friends still. Um, Always love and acceptance for who I am, unconditional love. And he was the one that really explained the whole two-spirit thing to me, because he's Native American, he's full-blooded Cherokee. I think his biggest concerns were just the medical aspect, and just like how difficult my life might be. And this was like, 2016, 2017, that we're starting to have really serious conversations about it. He's had a number of friends who have died from a routine surgery. And so when he heard that I wanted to have surgery, that was something he was very concerned about. But always supportive of me. Yeah.
well, as I say, for whatever reason, you turned out very well.
Thank
I
you.
guess it's a combination of you and your mind and your parents. And I know Yana is very acceptance to a lot of things, because I don't know if you see our shows or not. Uh, but she's involved with people in the world, and making the world better. But anyway, I think our time is almost up. Would you believe we talked a half hour straight? Anyway, I thank you very much. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and again, as your mom does, trying to make the world a better place for certain people, for everybody, but especially for the people that going through the same things you do, and accepting who you are.
Thank
And
you.
I thank
And
you,
Kevin,
Yana, for bringing up such a educated son and giving son.
and I just want to thank Kevin for being so willing to answer questions, because it can be a very difficult subject. But Kevin is very articulate and knows a lot, and is very accepting of people's questions. So I think he's a wonderful advocate, and he's a great. I love him to death.
Yeah, well,
And
I think he
he's
found
one
out
of
who he.
my very best friends.
Yeah, I think he found out who he knows who he is, and is happy
He
with it. I
does.
could see it in his smile. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. And again, you're listening to Malcolm and We, heard on malcolmpresents.com. And if you have any questions for on this show, please contact me at Malcolm Berman, BURMAN, at gmail.com. And hopefully we'll see both of you again.
Thank you,
Well, I know I'll
Yeah,
see
Malcolm.
I
you,
think we need to have a part two and
we can have a part two, part
part
three.
three.
And in fact, I would talk about, I wouldn't mind doing, a show just featuring, Kevin and you, or just Kevin questioning, because there's so many questions, and there's so many questions that I don't know. And so many things are coming up, politically, that we could talk about, and the world in general. Anyway, guys, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
The objective of the organization, We the World, is to facilitate cooperation on a global scale amongst groups and individuals dedicated to implementing solutions to the many challenges we face on the planet at this time.